Crony capitalism is the quiet elephant in the room at the state capitol. While we have all heard of the term, not everybody understands exactly how it operates through the legislative process and how it comes out and it gets expressed. Even a lot of legislators don't see it in themselves in terms of what happens. What I'd like to do is define this so that we, the people, know what it is, how it's actually reducing our standard of living and shrinking the middle class in America and Oklahoma, and then what we can do to push back on this. We need to expose this for what it is. I'm going to do this through an example. We have some legislation coming up. All right, we're going to talk about some legislation that came out 3 or 4 years ago. But before doing that, I'd like you to understand that at the state capitol, yes, we have the Republicans versus the Democrats, the R's versus the D's. In many ways, that's a marketing front. When you get into that building, you start talking to legislators, there are actually 3 different philosophies of government that they'll operate from. And allow me to use the correct terms instead of the party names. First, you have the socialists in there, and they do believe in the idea the government is to solve our problems. The government is to bring about heaven and earth and to create what we need to take care of we the people. At the same time, you have those who want to, what I'll call the crony capitalists. It's a bit of a derogatory term, I know that, but bear with me as I define it. These are the folks, well-meaning again, they really want to manage the economy. They're the ones who come along and say they want to create jobs. So they go for the big companies, and often what they don't realize are the second and third order magnitude problems they can create. They create a job, but then they actually lose 2 behind the scene that they're not aware of because it's not measured. Still, you have that group in there, that way of thinking. And then you also have those who are into the free market. This is your Liberty Bunch. And that you hear of, you might hear the term Freedom Caucus, but not all folks who are in Liberty are actually in the Freedom Caucus. Now, at the same time, it's not a clear division between these 3. The reality is any given legislator, as you listen to them talk and as they think through a particular bill, they can slide back and forth between these 3 categories as a matter of degrees. They'll emphasize different ones. So so we all have a little bit of socialism in us. We all have a little bit of crony capitalism in us. And then we all have a little bit of the free market, libertarian kind of personality. I want to show this distinction now and how it works at the Capitol through a particular bill that came out 3 or 4 years ago. The intent, when the legislator came out with it, I don't need to give a name. We're just going to stick with the concept here. The intent was to take care of the couple just getting started in life, and they want to buy their first home. They want to buy a startup home. So in order to do that, one thing you can do is you can build them. So why not have a zero-interest construction loan? That way, because when general contractors go to build a house, they get a construction loan. They're paying interest on it, is what they're doing. And they need to include that cost in the sell of the home to the new buyer, which they end up paying back on their mortgage. Well, if it's a zero-interest construction loan, it helps to reduce the cost that the general contractor has to sell the home to the new buyer with. So it lowers the price of the home. And you get more people in houses. Now, it has, on the surface, it has 2 apparent benefits. The first is you build more homes. That's the first apparent benefit. The second is you employ more people. You actually have more contractors being employed, more electricians, more plumbers, because you're building more homes. That's the appeal, and that's how it gets marketed, by the way. As you walk around the state capitol, legislators are talking to each other, and lobbyists are talking to them. That is actually how it gets marketed. But let's take a look at what's really going on. If you have a wealth transfer going on, it's the person who's in the existing home right now, who's trying to save up money so they can put, what do you want to say? They can put braces on their daughter's teeth, right? They're trying to save that money and they really can't because behind the scenes their taxes are going up so they can help pay for the startup home. There's a wealth transfer going on. Now that'll appeal to the socialist blood in all of us because it kind of equalizes things And again, you're taking care of those at the bottom. So it sounds appealing, but that's where the cost comes from. Same time, yeah, you might think you're doing a guy a favor who's into the construction business. But what happens is this. With every law that gets passed, you have to implement it. It turns into bureaucracy. So when you're kind of manipulating in this attempt to manage the economy, okay, going back to that term, you're actually manipulating what's going on with these layers of bureaucracy. Now, in this diagram here, we have the large contractor. These are your large organizations, large companies, and they can build a lot of homes. Well, okay, so they get a little more bureaucracy. Well, all they need to do is automate the whole thing. You ever go to the title company to buy a house, and they bring out reams of paperwork? You got to sign them all. And sometimes you even glance at a little bit of the paperwork. Well, the whole idea here is they have all that automated. It just gets spit out of the printer. So because it's expensive to set up, but they distribute that cost over a lot of homes being sold. So by home, it gets reduced, that expense. Well, it's the same idea with a construction loan. A little bit more bureaucracy in order to get the zero interest loan, okay? And they get it, but again, distributed over a lot of homes being constructed, it's only a little cost increase. Now, for the small contractor who only builds a few homes a year, he can't afford all the automation. So what he ends up doing, or she, is they're out all day long managing subcontractors and building the next home. Then they come home at night and they fill out all this bureaucracy, all this paperwork issued by the government. They have to do this or they can't compete because the big guys, they're going for the zero interest loans. The small guy has to, otherwise he has to absorb the cost of the interest because he can't get paid back on it, okay? So he's stuck. Now what happens is law after law gets passed, a lot of times with seemingly good intentions. We're going to get to that in a moment. And the bureaucracy builds up, all in the name of safety, health, and peace. All these laws turn into bureaucracy, and you can't compete. So what happens to the small contractor, and this is the concept we really need to understand. That small contractor, he ends up selling his business or quitting or folding. He no longer is an owner. Instead, he moves over, he works with a large contractor, and he takes on some title like project manager. He's still building homes. He may even make the same income when all is said and done. But now, instead of being his own owner and being a competitor, he's now an employee. And in that case, what happens to a large contractor is he thins out his competition because of all this increase in regulation. And when they can do that, what they can end up doing is raising the price of the home. If you take a look at this next slide, you'll notice on that startup home, you see the arrow going up with the dollar signs. He can raise the price of the startup home. So effectively what happened is, in all the roundabout way, is those tax dollars that were taken out of the existing homeowner in order to give a no-interest loan, construction loan, to that startup, the general contractor build a new home, he's able to raise the price. He basically pockets those tax dollars, is what he does. Maybe even more, because the price, he can raise it. It's competition that determines his pricing. If there's a lot of competition, he has to build a home of greater quality, and he has to lower the price to compete. With less competition, the quality doesn't need to be there because he's got the customer base looking for the home, and he can actually raise the price. And that's the nature of a lack of competition, moving towards a monopoly status. This not only happens in housing, I'm bringing up this one bill as an example. This not only happens in housing, but it can happen in like retail. Let's take your restaurant industry. You ever noticed how we're all moving into franchises for restaurants where they're just all over the place? 50 years ago, we used to have a lot of mom and pop restaurants. Where are they today? There are some still out there, but you go to a restaurant and you find the right wall, in the back or something, and you see all these licenses and permits and everything they have to keep up with. So grandma with a favorite recipe for whatever it is that she makes, she has to go through that layer of bureaucracy before she serves her first dish. That's the challenge. And that's why you see so many franchises, because they end up consolidating. By the way, that whole effort where you see the reduction in competition and the big businesses liking it, that's where crony capitalism comes in. You get a few survivors, and they do well. Now what happens is they realize this. They understand that by increasing the bureaucracy, they can squeeze out their competition, and they can raise their prices greater than what the bureaucracy costs them. They like that. So then they begin to hire lobbyists to go on down there to legislators and say, look, I get an idea. I want to take care of the little guy. So here's another idea for a bill, legislation. Let's get it passed because I want to take care of the little guy. Meanwhile, they're really squeezing out their competition 1 year at a time, one bill at a time. And I would dare say this is the majority. Moving to another slide. This is what the majority of the bills to the state capitol are about. And keep in mind, see where all the elements come in. The good intentions and goodwill of socialism is the front end. It's all about the children. It's about taking care of the little guy. See, that's the marketing front. If you listen on the House floor or the Senate floor to the pitch for why they need this bill, this is what people bring out. Okay, that's what they bring out. They don't bring out the idea of squeezing competition. But you know those campaign contributions? That's their cut for squeezing out the competition of those big companies. Yeah, our legislators get a cut. They get a lot of money, and they can run a lazy campaign, as Jason Murphy will bring out in his emails. I encourage you to subscribe to. They can run a lazy campaign and easy because they're so well funded. That's what's going on. So the socialists and the crony capitalists, wink, wink, nod, nod, they're working together. Now, do all our legislators understand this? Do they understand that over the last 50 years, the middle class has dropped by 10%, and this is a part of it? I don't think so. As I talk to them and listen to them about various bills when I visit them, and I do visit them frequently and all, I don't hear that kind of language coming out of them. I hear the good intentions. I hear what they want to do. I even hear the intentions of, we need greater competition. We need to improve business. We need to bring in more businesses into the state. We need to take care of our children. We need to take care of the little guy. We need things safe. We need things healthy. And we need this predictable business environment so that we can all get along and cooperate. It's driving up the cost. In this case, it's driving up the cost of home manufacturing. This is an issue. We need competition. Now, they can work together. You'll notice in this slide to have socialism and crony capitalism versus the free market. Notice, they work together against the idea of free market principles. So the very last slide, free market. Folks, as grassroots, we need to understand this. The purpose of government is to punish evildoers. It's not to help create heaven and earth. That really is our job as individuals. All right. Instead, the purpose of government and punishing evildoers, I know that is a biblical term, and not everybody may necessarily accept it. But the whole idea is the government should be in a position of waiting until somebody steals, lies, think in terms of business contract. They get out there, maybe they murder, rape, whatever it is, okay? All these various, what do you want to call it? It's natural law that we all universally agree, regardless of our religious affiliation. We all agree that stealing is wrong. We all agree that murder is wrong. Violating contracts is wrong. So the whole idea, this is where the government, once that happens, they wait. The government waits, much like the fire department. The fire department waits for the fire, then they go put it out. On the other hand, you have the government that waits for a violation, then they go restore justice. Outside of that, you let the contractors compete. You let them build homes. And the small guy, that price will be low. He'll get into his startup home because there'll be a market. And there'll always be a contractor there willing to build that house. Okay, that's what the free market is all about. It's not about a managed economy, such as the crony capitalists are constantly talking about. It's not about a managed economy. People can manage their own affairs, and they can take care of each other. Okay. On the other hand, at the same time, we don't need all these socialist programs. Again, families can take care of families within the family, within their church, whatever social organization they're with. You see, people can take care of people directly. We don't need to manage that through all these programs. As soon as we bring about these programs, I'll tell you what follows. Corruption. Even under the socialist model, you can have the best social program going, benevolent program going, to take care of the poor, to feed those who fall between the cracks. And you can bring along somebody who's fine in character as Mother Teresa, and that person can run that program and do a bang-up job and do extremely well, and we'd all be smiling. But the wolves are hanging around the edges. As soon as that new version of Mother Teresa, as soon as that caring person, they age out and pass away, whatever the cause is, go to a new generation, the wolves come in and they will exploit that program. And that's true whether it's on the benevolence programs, and it's true on the, even in business. They'll come in and exploit because they have the power of government to give them cover to protect them. And they have all that management instrument of government to protect them that they can hide behind. And they claim they're doing a good deed. Meanwhile, they're actually exploiting. In America, we are slowly creating, because we have these large companies getting bigger and bigger, we're slowly creating an American version of an aristocracy. We need to reverse this. We need to reverse all these regulations. We have way too many of them. Do you know that Oklahoma has 3 times as many regulations as Idaho? Why is that? Why does Oklahoma need 3 times as many regulations as Idaho? I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer in that at all. No? Folks, we need to work on backing that up. Please inform and educate your legislators, those running for office, because we can do this. We can appeal to the sensibilities, teach them how this process works, and we can gradually back out of it. Please understand, for some, they'll call this extreme. We're extremists, especially the establishment crowd within the Republican Party they see so much. We're extremists. No. Folks, give me dangerous freedom. I trust you as my neighbor. And I believe you will trust me too. We can take care of each other. Our affairs don't need to be managed by a guy on top of the hill in a big house. We can take care of each other. Any thoughts on that, Aya? I'm done with my rant.
So, as far as just bringing it down to our everyday actions, you know, what can we do? Like, we've kind of heard what goes on at the Capitol and how it hurts, you know, the small businesses, which is a big deal. We saw a lot of that during COVID. The small businesses were really hurt. I was still trying to figure out why Walmart could stay open, but, you know, the hairdressers couldn't, things like that. But what can the common everyday citizen, which again, we're kind of looking at it as the upside down pyramid, right?
Right.
What can we do that'll make it more the right way, like just in our neighborhoods? You know, what difference can we make? How can we make a difference?
Well, first off, we need to be patient because this is something that definitely takes time. We need to learn principles of good government because the reality is the socialist and the crony capitalist, that's in all of us. We all have these tendencies. And something comes up, it's a big event, whatever, an event occurs, and we all want to panic, and we all believe the government should run in there and make for a safe, healthy environment. Something happens. Maybe it's a fire in a restaurant. We need more laws. You know, things like that. We all have that temptation. We need to resist that temptation. don't fall for that easy, what appears to be an easy path, because the wolves in hiding, they want us to do that. Instead, we need to learn the principles of good government, get together and get connected in our own communities, and then begin to work together, work with our own state legislators, and the whole idea of repealing some of these regulations. Now you get into more detail, okay? Well, this one right here we're now talking about. This would be a good piece of legislation to repeal. And you can actually go and find it. You learn how to find the law, okay? Talk to your legislator, explain this idea, because they haven't heard it, okay? Not likely at all. They haven't heard the problem here, and ask them to repeal it. Now the challenge is, it's going to sound cold and heartless up front, because wait a minute, don't you want to take care of the little guy in the building of their home? Well, yeah, I do, but guess what? The price is going up anyway due to the lack of competition. So you need to talk to your neighbors about these principles, bring more people engaged, get them involved. And when that happens, legislators will respond. They have to. They need your vote. Legislators happen to be very responsive to their voters. They do track them. That's how they win these elections. That's my thought. Now, I can get into more detail on that. Of course, I believe in the resources of the John Birch Society but for doing this. But all the same, you got to figure that out. And I'm going to help you, too. Just reach out.
Well, I think everyone should read the Little House on the Prairie books at some point in their life. Mm-hmm. I was gifted a set when I was probably 8 years old. I still have it. But when we talk about something like this, I think back to the days of our founding fathers, or the foundation of our country. And I mean, these people did not have a Walmart to run to. They did not have the health department to run to, and they had to figure it out. They were hard workers, and they did depend upon their neighbor that was, 20 miles away.
Yeah, that's right. Very agrarian society.
Neighbor, but they would come together maybe to their church every Sunday, which would be an all-day event, right? Mm-hmm. They'd stay, and then they'd eat dinner, and then they'd on the ground, or lunch on the ground.
Yeah, they would.
But they had a community that, when you talked about a fire came, well, they all came together. They didn't have insurance, right? But they figured it out because they had a community. And so we think about, well, oh my goodness, if we got rid of these, what would happen when someone needed, right? And I think that we wouldn't die.
We would survive.
We wouldn't disappear. We would figure it out. That humans are very adaptive, Yes. And we have learned to just become dependent so much on, and some of us aren't dependent on some of the things that others are, but we're still dependent. I mean, we don't even realize sometimes how dependent we are on, these safeguards that have been set for us. And I mean, we have health insurance that many people can't even afford, but,
right.
But we think we need that.
Yeah,
and maybe
we do
because one doctor's visit or calamity can cost you $80,000, $100,000, and what would we do without insurance?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we do have all of these little booby traps that has changed our lives exponentially and made us not free people.
That's true. I like your Little House on the Prairie example, because that's a classic. If you're in your 20s and you haven't seen it, trust me, it's worth watching an episode or two just on TV. In America, when we were founded, we were driving. We were in wooden wagons and wooden ships, right, out in the seas, right? Wagons and wooden ships. That was the technology of the day. And yet, what do we have 100 years later? All right, after that, through a very thin government, okay? Yes, America's sin and slavery was there, and it's unfortunate. Put that aside for the moment and just take a look at what was going on in the rest of America. We went from wooden ships and...
wooden wheels.
Yeah, wooden wheels, right, the wagon, to automobiles and airplanes. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge jump. And we had a huge jump in our quality of life and standard of living. And yes, we even got over America's original sin and slavery. All through that 100-year period or so, okay? And it was when we had a very thin government, thinner regulations. I would dare say today, yes, we are experiencing technical advances, but we'd be far better off if we didn't have all the regulations stepping in the way.
Do you think that the regulations back in the day would have kept these people from flying and crashing and dying in the first few airplanes? What do you think?
I think if you had all those regulations and everything in place, we would have had very safe boats, but they would have prevented the airplane from being invented. They would have shut down your competition, right? Yeah. And that's, and obviously it's kind of an extreme example, but you get the idea. It can actually prevent progress, all these regulations. Look at what's going on in other countries. All these laws limiting people, and we're slowly going down that same way, following into the same trap. Right now, we still have a middle class with 50% of America. It used to be 60. I believe 60 was its peak in the 70s, in the 1970s. We want to restore that.
I don't know if I can remember. I was just a baby, so.
I've got a few years on you. I remember some of those days. Just getting started out at work and not having to worry about all these laws.
I watch a lot of British news, conservative British news, and I was watching the other day where they're not allowed to have air conditioning.
Yes.
Even if they can afford it, they're not allowed to have it. They don't want you using that energy and such. And I mean, just that alone, I think, would cause a world war in America.
It would.
A world war in America. I mean, can you imagine if they're like, Bob, we're coming to pick up your air conditioners. No more air conditioning.
Oh, in Oklahoma?
Well, when they came on your property, you'd be exercising your Second Amendment right, I think.
Oh, did you see it happen at the World Cup?
I saw a lot that happened at the World Cup, but what are you referring to?
Well, watching some of the videos, the YouTube videos, right?
That's in my segment for
then I'll wait. But you got to bring up Europeans' thoughts on American air conditioning.
Yes.
You got to bring that out. Okay, all right.
And the American ribs.
Yes.
Oh, man. I have a lot to say about... Yeah, World Cup is right there.
Something to be said about American pride. We have a lot to offer the world and each other. We want to keep it going.
That's right.
Anything else on this?
No, I like this a lot. I've only heard this maybe 6 times now, and I still like it.
Yeah, I would like to get it out there. It's an easy model.
Good stuff.
It's an easy model to understand. Track your legislators, not just through their stump speeches. Everybody's got one, okay? But through their votes. Take a look at what they're voting on and the implications of a bill. Look at the second and third order consequences, because that's what matters. Just like we see here.
And I'm with you, Bob. I think, for those who might be disappointed in the most recent elections here in Oklahoma, there is still something we can do about it.
Yes. Oklahoma is not lost, not by a long shot. We're a bit off track, but we can restore that.
Well, we can
working together.
Yeah, absolutely. We can influence our legislators, and it pays to be friends with them. It pays to build a relationship, whether you like them or not. It pays to have a relationship with them.
Yes, because they care. Most of them really do. I know some you'll complain about, but most of them genuinely care and have our best interest in mind. And some may want more of a cut than others. On top of that, okay, I get it. But they, in the end, they have children and grandchildren too. All right, so you realize they are human, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it takes a special person to run for office. Imagine that every either 2 or 4 years, you might lose your job. Would you like that? You have a good job, and every 2 or 4 years, it's possible that you're going to lose your job. That is no fun. It's no fun.
Yeah.
And so, I think that our legislators will listen to us more than what we think, and maybe more than what we've been told. But how many of us actually go, like Bob does, and camp out at the Capitol to have these conversations, and then let these people know you when they see Bob somewhere, where at the grocery store or at the restaurant or, out paying a bill somewhere, they recognize Bob because he's up there, maybe complaining sometimes and giving some ideas other times, but
with cause.
Yeah, it does help to build a relationship with them.
It does. It does help to build a relationship with all of them. Okay, it really does. All right, on that note, we're going to go ahead and close for today, and we will talk to y'all next time. Take care.